Hi, everyone. I'm not
Hi.
Anthony Pico. I'm Sue Hillyard, and Anthony is a little under the weather today, so we're going to try and do our best without him. But here's his usual introduction. Welcome to Astrospeak. This is a chat show formatted to feature astrologers arguing, cooperating, agreeing, and disagreeing, inspiring each other and sharing their knowledge. We will be asking questions and asking for feedback and opinions, but please remember to keep it short, pithy, to the point, and succinct. We wish to have a lively and active show, and all of these questions involve things that I am pretty sure all of us have experience. Remember, play nice.
Play nice.
Play nice. Okay, so our hostess with the mostest is Michaela Villiers-Kendall, and we are joined today by Robin Grabfelder, Lynn Ewing, Dianne Lawson, Jordyn Smith, and Nia Fyler. Go ahead and take it away. I think we're going to start with a little bit about the wrap up to the Venus retrograde cycle.
Yeah, great. I mean, on the agenda are the eclipses mostly and focused on the events in Israel. But we're going to start with the Venus star because, as you say, Lou, that Sue, they it leads into the events and the eclipses. So, do you want to go ahead, Sue?
Yeah, well, I'll just say what I noticed was that after the Venus retrograde and direct, we came back to the very end of what we have talked about as the shadow period during the retrograde, and at the very in the very last day of the shadow period was when the events, the attacks in Israel occurred.
Amazing, yeah.
And Venus was at 28, back to 28 Leo, and conjunct the Mars of Israel.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah. And of course, aspected, as we'll see when we look at Israel's chart next, aspected by a Mars 28 is aspected by Pluto, quincunx, and etc. There's so much. It's amazing. Actually, I was trying to highlight the most appropriate,
I did that too.
Yeah, and the whole thing is actually forget it.
So you got everything highlighted?
Yeah.
It's all popping up here.
It's always highlighted.
So
Captain, I don't know what these lights are, but they're all blinking.
Oh my God.
Well, and also Venus rules the eclipse that,
Sure. I mean, it's been a tough summer, hasn't it, to say the least?
Yeah.
And now it's like, and that did start really with the Venus retrograde, with the inferior conjunction. But it does feel like a descent, doesn't it, really? And now it's like, now we go into the autumn and we're descending. We're still descending, so hey, yeah. But up, buckle our seatbelts, because it's good for our consciousness. But on the other hand, it's you do have to be. I mean, Nia, you're on the spot. You're in Israel, so I mean, it must help you a lot to have your astrology friends and your spiritual
Immensely
guide.
comforting.
Yeah.
For first and foremost, being an astrologer myself and having this emotional safety net, that I can fall back on, knowing that things are not arbitrary. Having a sense, of something is going to come, like we did with COVID, like we did with many other events that, world events that astrologers foresee. They don't exactly know how they're going to play out, but they can see things light up in the charts, and they know things are going to occur in real life. So yesterday night, like from 1 minute to another, we ganged up 5 astrologers, and we had a free Zoom for the community, talking about the Israeli chart, talking about everything, and having a community, having you people, you friends, and having, you know, that kind of emotional backbone to fall on, emotional safety net to fall on. The difference in how I felt the minute before I joined and the minute after, once seeing your faces and seeing the chart, and, you know, it's a totally different feeling. And again, it brings me to what we spoke about, I think, 2 sessions ago, about the new age of Aquarius and how important community is, and mutual, not codependency, but mutual
Support.
support.
Support
Thank you.
system.
Yeah. It's a worldwide community with the Aquarian coming in. Yeah.
So,
So we're
It's
all
like
sitting
an
in different countries.
egalitarian tribe, right?
Sorry?
It's more like an egalitarian tribe that's wanting to
Mhm.
come together, you know, based in giving, sharing, and inclusion.
Hmm. And amen
Rather
to
than
that.
our differences, we're looking for our similarities and celebrating our differences.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and according to this chart, Venus is in the 11th house
Hmm.
of the Israeli chart right now.
Yes, it's a popular country indeed. It's a small thing, but it's on everybody's lips, and there's a lot of paradigms about, you know, it being the spiritual center of the world, with Jerusalem as the, you know, the eye of the Zion, you know. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I know that whatever we believe is true for us.
Mhm.
That much I know.
True.
I'll share my screen, and there's
Hey.
many different versions of the Israeli chart. I'm using one that is 4 minutes past, excuse me, 7 minutes past 4 on the 14th of May, 1948, in Tel Aviv, Israel. And it puts Venus not in the 11th, but in the 9th house of Israel in this chart.
Hmm.
It does give it, though, and
No, I meant transiting Venus
transiting Venus. Yes,
Yeah.
it's in,
because I
in-
have the same chart. It's transiting Venus. So it's
indeed.
Speaking
So I'm not going to speak about this chart too much and interpret it. I want to see it together with the transits that are in play right now. Let's make this bigger. So let's head one day forward to the eclipse coming at the 14th. It's on 21 degree, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay. So we can see how close this solar eclipse is to Israel's ascendant.
and
on
in the
one
house of hidden enemies.
Mhm.
enemies. It's an Goklan point. It's Goklan's first, you know, statistical point of strength. 7 degrees above the horizon, up to 7 degrees above the horizon. We can see Mars playing in Scorpio on the south node, joining in. And we know that there's a square in play between this sinister Mars in Scorpio and Hades, Pluto, god of the underworld, volcanoes, sitting on the IC.
Yeah, wow, that's so powerful, isn't it? I
At the
mean,
Homeland.
time, across from Israel's natal moon.
wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, the
And-
Mars is squaring, the transiting Mars is also squaring the natal moon pretty
Thank you.
closely.
Thank you, Lynn. You are right. And
Yeah.
it's going to square
Yeah.
Pluto, and then Saturn, and then the natal Mars until the end of November.
Mm.
Okay, as it progresses, the next full moon is on Israel's dragon's tail, on its Chiron. Again, Mars and the sun, the moon across right here in the 5th degree, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Cirrus is posing.
And it's squaring that Mars and the moon. It's opposing the sun. Okay, so let's move this minute
Whoa.
And
to the
that's a
next,
lunar eclipse as well.
yeah,
Can I say
that's a
something
blood
about-
moon. It's a blood moon. Yeah, indeed.
Can I
Just
say
to-
something about this eclipse with Israel's chart though?
Sure.
The Venus, since it's the ruler of this eclipse, it's really interesting to note that during the Libra solar eclipse, her planetary south node is at 14 degrees Scorpio, which is where the last lunar eclipse that happened in Scorpio was
And
at.
it's the south node of Israel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mhm.
And the new cycle of Mars is in the 1st degree of Scorpio, I believe, as well. There's a Mars birth in a sense happening within that time as well. So it's a very special time in the sense that Mars would not open a cycle in Scorpio in our lifetime again, you know, in that sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It's
it's
so powerful.
ongoing, and it creates a grand square, you know. Let's take it a week forward. Look at this. Okay, so it creates a grand square between the sun and Mars,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mars and Saturn.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that's the putting the brakes on transit, isn't it? It's like
Yes. Yeah, well, hopefully putting the brakes on.
hopefully putting the brakes on.
With
Yeah.
Mars being in the 1st house,
Yes.
and with all these eclipses happening, and all this frustration, and all this rage for the atrocities that have been done, you know, really, I mean,
Yeah. I know.
you know, everybody's in post-trauma. Once you see a bunch of kids, you know, cuffed together and beheaded,
Oof.
you'll be in post-trauma as well. You know, kids, I'm talking about babies, 3 years old, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
And that
and
festival.
there's that, okay? So there's this fear, you know, that soldiers would behave too strongly now, you know, that it would be too harsh of a response.
What of from
Israel's side.
oh, okay.
We would
Right.
be
Right.
that we would respond too harshly. That
Yes.
it would be hard for the young soldiers to uphold the morality and ethics
Sure.
they
Sure.
call them to uphold. Okay, and Israel is very staunch about that. Okay, because
Yeah.
it's very much looked at the world. You know, it can't transgress as much as the bigger armies that are given a looser hand. You know, so it's really tight on that sense. But now there's a fear, you know, that because of all the wanting to revenge, you know, revenge.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising. There is that I mean, that emotion. I mean, it would
all
invite
villages were wiped out, all families, you know, people killed in front of
yeah,
like
and
babies
just-
killed in front of parents, parents killed in front of babies. I personally know people that, you know, I have a
Yeah.
friend, his wife was shot dead in front of him. Then they shot him in the shoulder that made him drop his 3-year-old
oh
baby
no.
that was on his hand.
Mm.
And they kidnapped him and the baby to Gaza.
Oh my God.
Other 2 kids, 6 and 9, were hiding in the closet. They're now with family members.
God.
Okay,
Oh,
so these stories
yeah.
going on all the time, you know,
Yeah.
and people you know personally.
It's traumatizing.
It's very
I
traumatizing.
think people around the world can feel, a lot of us. I mean, astrologers are more empathetic, so maybe we feel it more than some people. But I know a lot of astrologers are traumatized by it. It's because we can, you know, we can see it, we can feel it. And
And
yeah.
I think the whole world feels it. I
Yes.
think, you know, I know that a lot of clairvoyants and a lot of mystics here in Israel had very bad nightmares the weeks before this.
Really? Wow.
And yeah, everybody. I mean, everybody was talking about it in the astrological community here, and everybody was talking about it in the mystical community.
I've been having some pretty strange dreams for the past few
I've-
weeks.
And I haven't been able to sleep.
I'm
It
bringing
was-
you back to the eclipses.
Yeah, I hadn't realized or thought about this being a connection to that energy, but I have in my own life, I have no reason not to be sleeping. And I'm taking sleeping pills, and I'm only sleeping a couple hours a night, and I'm having weird dreams too.
There's
but-
a feeling that the chasms of hell.
Mhm.
can
But
open.
you know, I'm looking at this with the transits combined with the natal and forming a grand square, and the three of the points, the transiting Mars, transiting Uranus, the natal Sun, the natal Mars, are all in fixed signs.
Mm.
So, and Saturn is the only one that's an immutable sign, but still part of it. And I'm wondering, with the fixity of this, is this going to last a long time? And you've taken this up to November 11th, which is, you know, fairly far away still.
November? No, it's at the end of November.
November.
The end of
November 11th, you've got.
yeah, no, but
the transit.
you know, until Mars leaves Scorpio completely,
Yeah.
I think it's going to.
Oh, okay. But I'm looking at the date you have here and saying this, you know, this is a month away, basically, and it's still ongoing. So this is looking like it's, and with the fixed, you know, this potential grand square being almost into all fixed, there's a likelihood that this is going to be a long-term situation.
And that's what I'm afraid of. And
Yeah.
I'm afraid this is going to escalate into something
Mhm.
regional.
And
something
unexpected.
global.
We're going to see
But
things
not just
we
for
didn't
Israel.
anticipate coming.
Yeah, it's
I've never heard an American president speak
Yeah.
so clearly, and Biden would never send his biggest sheep or speak this way if he hadn't had clear intelligence information describing how Iran, Russia, you know, that axis, you know, the Eastern axis
Yeah.
is, you know, planning
They're in cahoots.
Firing.
Absolutely.
here
Absolutely.
in this situation. The
Yeah,
Syrians,
the new evil
the
axis.
Lebanese, Hezbollah, Iran. You know, Syria is basically a proxy of Iran. The Lebanese government and Hezbollah are as well. Iran is like an octopus, you know, really controlling everybody, moving them like pawns
Yeah.
against
Exactly.
Israel. And I've never heard an American president be so clear about things, and he wouldn't have said that if they wouldn't have clear information that somebody's planning something. Now, if the U.S., and I'm bringing you back to the eclipses happening all over the U.S., okay?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that this situation here in Israel is impacting the U.S. at least as much as it impacts Israel.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Not now, but in the future. Okay, like I
Yeah.
really,
Well-
my biggest fear is a third world war.
This
That's
is the
it.
catalyst.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's
Wait.
like it's the as we said, the one thing trying to keep the lid on there is it's like Saturn is trying to keep the lid on, but to keep the lid on that, it's like, whoa, how are you going to do that? It's
And
not-
when you're in a mutable sign, especially Pisces, forget about it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And well, the Saturn is trining the transiting moon at that, but only for that moment in time. I did want to throw something in. I grew up reading science fiction, annihilation novels about nuclear war and stuff.
Oh.
And if anybody remembers a very classic novel that was made into a film, now Neville Shute, I can't remember the name of anyway, the Third World War begins in the Middle East, according to him, which, you know, no matter what time you're looking at, there's always some kind of trial and tribulation going on in that area of the world. It's never
Unfortunately,
everybody's
according to
happy.
all
Yeah,
of
but
our
it is
prophecies,
also it also, like Nia said, it's like it is a spiritual center
Yeah.
to the world. So it would be the place
Mm.
to start because, yeah,
And
it's
it
a
didn't
focal
happen
point.
overnight either. This
No.
has been going on for a really
No.
long time. In fact, some of the
Actually,
eclipses in the past few years have been in that area of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, you're right. And I want to take you back to an eclipse happening a year ago on Israel's Saturn. Okay, if I can bring it up. Was it? No, it's not.
What degree is there Saturn?
There's so much. There's an easier way of doing
Oh,
this.
it would have been about 2017 or 2018.
Let's do
Which
this.
one was that? The one in, what eclipse was that?
There was one at 18
This
degrees
one.
Leo. Is that the one you're talking about?
Or April
Yeah.
30th, that one?
This one is in 10 degrees Taurus, and it
Yeah, that
was
was a really powerful eclipse. Yeah.
on the tail of Israel, squaring its natal Pluto.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Squaring
Yeah.
its natal Pluto. Then
Yeah.
there was one across the sun, squaring natal Mars, a lunar total, blood moon.
Mm-hmm.
And no, don't go bad on me, please. You can do it, computer. No.
Fickle. No mind, get back to it.
That's solar fire from you, all that good
They're all
Windows
like,
XP, you know.
yeah, actually, I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was amazing. The I don't know if you've got it on there, Sue, on my the sort of the last charts I put up there, the Astro Gold ones. I mean, I could try to share my screen, but I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead if you want.
I can do
Yeah,
it.
you've got it. Yeah. So it
there
was
was
the,
one. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
you go ahead. You've got it now. Go on.
I got it.
Great.
So this is one. Yeah, this was May 5th, squaring natal Saturn on the dragon's tail,
Oh my God, yeah.
squaring Pluto. This was this is this one.
Yeah.
This is on the ascendant, right?
Yeah.
On the ascendant, Queen conjuncting natal sun.
Can you
Yeah.
do that as a bi-wheel with the natal chart?
Sure.
Okay.
Which one? This one is the one you looked at.
Anyone, this one's fine. Just, I like to see it in, connected so that we can
Sure.
look at where things are on it.
So if we go back to May,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay. So days, hours.
So that was in April? No, May.
That was May
last
19th.
year.
Yeah, that was May 19th.
Okay.
Okay.
19.
Yeah.
2019. Yeah. So
Uh,
what was happening then? Did you feel the buildup of?
all through the last year, Israel has been suffering a deterioration of its civil community, civil society. There's several, it's a fraction society. There's Arabs, there's other minorities, Muslim minorities. There's other, there's the Orthodox Jews, which live a totally separated life from mainstream society in some cases, and secular Israel.
Sure.
And then within the secular society, there's left wing and right wing. So it's been totally fractioned, and since the right wing government came upon, it wanted to make judicial changes, changes in constitutional changes, really, decrease the power of the high courts and give more power to the parliament, and that brought Israelis to the streets.
Really?
So squaring Saturn, squaring Pluto.
Wow. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So
and that was part of the buildup. Was there problems with Palestine?
every week, at least once a week, there are people rioting.
We had that on the news here. I don't know if you had that in France, but we had a lot of that on the news
Yeah,
in
we do. We get the international news
States. Yeah.
satellite.
Here's the solar eclipse. That's a
That-
solar eclipse.
That was
that's
a
a
full,
lunar.
that was just a full moon.
That was just a full. No, I don't. No. I think this was
That was
extended
the lunar
delay.
eclipse that happened
lunar
this
eclipse.
past year.
That's a lunar eclipse on May
Oh,
5th,
right.
20.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Mhm.
Sorry. The one
Okay.
And
before.
so during
No,
during this
on the notes.
upcoming eclipse, the south node of Venus is at that 14-degree mark of Scorpio, and
Mhm.
Venus is the ruler. So you're pulling in like the triad of Venus, which I find very powerful for Israel.
Yeah.
amen to that. Look, I pray right now for peace. You know, on the one hand, there's a real problem because every child that's grown up into an age that they can carry weapons, and in the Gaza Strip, that's about 14, 15,
Mhm.
is a militant.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's a society that cultivates you going to sacrifice your life for Allah, you know, and becoming a shaheed, a saint, you know, and getting 70 virgins once you go to heaven. They celebrate death. So how do you separate, you know, the women, the children, the civil society from the people fighting against you on the one hand?
Right.
How do you keep yourself, you know, in attention all the time to care for the suffering, the pain
Mm.
of children everywhere, on both sides of the fence, of mothers everywhere, of families everywhere, you know, not dehumanizing your enemy as they
That's it.
dehumanize you.
I
Can
mean,
I-
obviously, it's
Oh, go ahead, Michaela.
there's an extreme situation there, but I mean, all around the world, we're getting tensions rise wherever we are. It's as though the particular tensions of our nations are sort of in the last few years, in fact, since 2020, they have just escalated. So it's like every single country is getting an escalation of the problems and the underlying problems that were there existing, and they've just got, now it's like you can't look away anymore. They're in our faces, and that seems to be the pattern since, you know, the Saturn Pluto conjunction of 2020.
And Pluto being on its own south node.
Yeah, Pluto, yeah, exactly. And now it's
I also think that as the nodes are in Aries and Libra, and Pluto's doing this dance back and forth, like we're going to see the extremes. I mean, Libra, and
Right.
then eventually, so we're
Aries,
not only just going to
war.
see them like within
Love and
social
war.
systems and governments, it's also the abuse of natural resources and climate change and all of that. And then I feel like whenever the nodes shift into Virgo Pisces, this is where we're going to see even more crisis. That's been highlighted throughout the next year and some odd months of people's inaction to do something. And it's going to be so big when that nodal shift happens that people are going to have to start doing something. And I think for some places, it's going to be too late. That's what I think.
Yeah, on lots of issues. I mean, a lot is to do with territory. I mean, the Scorpio Taurus nodal axis and the eclipses we just had that have, and obviously, I mean, Uranus in Taurus. It's a lot is focused on I mean, most of it is focused on territory because we've got migration problems, we've got climate change problems, we've got financial. I mean, it's all Taurus, isn't it? It's all Taurus Scorpio. And now it's like it's really coming. It's intensifying. It's coming to a head.
Well, as the North Node moves into Aries, it is going to intensify with more violence and more action toward what is going on. I wanted to mention, I'm going to guess that if this is the actual natal chart of Israel, they did not have an astrologer figure this one out.
Not only that, you know, there was an astrological society in Israel at the time.
But did they say, here's when we're going to begin?
The head of that society wrote a letter to Ben Gurion. I have it. And he told him, Mr. Prime Minister, if you're going to establish our state at this time, we're going to have a war every 2.5
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
it's like this chart is begging for it.
Well, it's that Saturn-Pluto conjunction at the heart
Well,
of
it's
it.
also the natal Mars in the 11th house, so everybody around you is not going to be your friend, or if they are, they're aggressive. And Mars squares the Sun in the 8th house. You know, this is not good. Not good at all.
Well, and just the nodal axis being where it is. It's like always it takes an extreme to counteract an extreme, and then it takes another extreme to counteract that extreme.
Mhm,
So-
mhm. And it really, and with the south node in the 1st house and the north node in the 7th, this is really us against the others, or us becoming or understanding the others. And it doesn't seem like that's happening very easily. And then you've got, and the nodes are squared by Pluto and Saturn. You know,
Mhm.
this is tough.
Well,
Anyway, the
but
guy
you
that
have
wrote
to
the
think
letter
about-
to the Prime Minister, I'm sorry, Michaela.
Go on, go on.
The
you
guy
have to
that wrote
think
the
about
letter to the
what the events were that this came out of.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean-
what I was just going to say.
Mhm.
Yeah, Israel, I mean,
can't
the state was created as
Yeah.
a result of, you know, of
the English mandate.
an
ending.
English
Oh, yeah, we
mandate
read that.
giving, yeah, with a bribe for, you know, the United States to back them should a war come.
Mhm.
Yeah, lots of, yeah, I mean, there is the whole history of the,
Yeah.
you know, the South, obviously.
The guy that wrote the letter died, by the way.
Uh-huh,
you know,
yeah.
Oh,
a
he
day
did?
later. Yeah, he wrote the
Oh,
letter, and then
you're
the fighting
joking.
started, and he was killed on the first day.
No.
What?
Oh my God. Do you think they
Uh,
knocked him off? Somebody? Or-
No, he died in a bombing on his kibbutz.
Oh, he
Very
did?
much like
Oh, no.
people today.
Terrible, isn't it?
He wrote the
Kind of
Prime
wrong.
Minister telling him, listen, if you erect Israel at this time, we're going to have a war every 2.5
God.
years. Died 24 hours later.
And then he was
That's the-
born.
Wow.
Mhm.
Sorry? Yeah. Yeah.
Blimey.
Can I show you something? Can I share something?
Yeah.
You're not going to believe this, okay? I have the Palestinian chart, okay? I
Right.
took the chart of Palestine as the Declaration of Palestine in the press conference in Tunis, I think it was.
Mhm.
And okay, let's say we didn't have, the Israelis did not have an astrologer on hand when they decided to declare the state. I don't know
Yeah.
how the Palestinians could decide on this time to erect the Palestinian state or declare they're erecting it without an astrologer. Okay,
What sort of astrology do they use there? Or is it?
I
like-
don't think they use
they
use astrology at all. But I want you to see Israel's chart in the middle and Palestine's chart on the outer wheel. Look at this. I'm gonna hear some sounds very soon.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Mhm.
First, the sun's opposition.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
my
goodness.
God. Oh, dear.
That's like the quintessential eye-popping astrology right there.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh.
Oh no! So the transit, in fact, you know, their sons are getting. I mean, their sons getting
Oh
opposed
my
by Christmas
goodness.
at the same time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all about their values. I have a
Transit.
question. So
Oh,
during this Saturn transit through Pisces, that's going to be transiting through the 5th house of Israel's chart. Obviously, right now it's the ruler of Pluto. And then whenever then when Pluto goes into Aquarius, Uranus, which is in conjunct Israel's ascendant, to me, this Saturn right now is about, yes, in a general sense, dissolving of like man-made structures that are impeding upon Israel, right? That are like creating death and disillusionment and war and all of this stuff. But it's also that 5th house is like, it's highlighting the elitism, right? Of what's going on, not obviously Israel, but like who's encroaching on them, who is trying to take power, who is trying to, create new borders. And I feel like it can actually, unfortunately, it's the whole, it takes an extreme to counteract an extreme, but I feel like Saturn through that 5th house could really help with the dissolving of more elitist
I mean, you're giving me
structures.
hope. You're giving me hope, but we all know that things need to be dissolved here because they're out of sync.
Absolutely.
And
That's
we're
amazing.
just afraid of the suffering, you know? We're just afraid of
Mhm.
the suffering that's involved.
Yeah, and it's like the suffering from elitist points of view is what I feel like, you know,
the thing
of
is,
value systems, of where one country thinks that their value system is way better, and it's, you know, it's Pisces, so it's about Allah, God,
what
you
you
know,
actually-
or whatever.
what you're seeing is a reflection of each other, though.
Mhm.
They're reflecting each other, and in other words, the projection is coming back at at one another. Yeah, it's a shared projection. Quite
Amazing.
And by sign, we have a fixed grand square with the moons and the suns, not by degree, but by sign. And so this may also, play into it just never ends.
Yeah. Well,
You don't have Eris. You don't have Eris in this chart, and Eris is at 24 degrees of Aries right now.
I think it'll be interesting whenever Saturn hits that 14-degree mark and trines. It'll be in a disseminating trine to Israel's south node, and then in a crescent sextile to the north node. So it'll be, I don't know when that date is, but I feel like that could be really powerful.
Yeah.
Let's look it up. How do I look it up?
So just look up whenever
January that Saturn goes direct.
Yeah, look up when Saturn hits that 14-degree mark of Pisces. I want to tell you, is it Nia or Naya? I'm so sorry.
It's cool. Nia.
Okay. Something I saw, and I talked about it a little bit earlier, is on the day that the attacks happened, the asteroid Lilith, so the actual physical body, who I love this archetype, was conjunct the lunar south node whenever the attacks happened. And to me, Lilith represents where we safeguard a natural occurring principle or law. And because she was conjunct the south node and Pluto squaring this, it's highlighting the distortions around like social constructs that are impeding upon natural law. And Lilith, in a very general sense, is about giving, sharing, and inclusion. And I feel like with these attacks, it is in a way, especially with Israel's chart having this intense Virgo Pisces, kind of dynamic go on right now, that it's showing the whole country of where we need to safeguard this principle. Look at what can happen whenever these distortions happen. Look at what happens to people about this. Like, this is not okay. And I feel on some level, I have little goosebumps that hopefully, my hope and prayer, I have a north node in Pisces, I'm going to be very honest, is that, and it's in the 10th house.
Mine's in the 12th.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
That this, guardian protectress energy of natural law, people come back and recenter to this as a way to create the balance and harmony. But of course, it's got to be extremes to counteract these. And unfortunately, this is happening to your country right now. But it's like, I see it as this prayer of it's highlighting this destruction in order for hopefully people to come together in this community to get back to that place of giving, sharing, and inclusion, because that is absolutely not what is going on, and a bottom line of why this war is happening,
The only thing is, I mean, this has been this is very, very, very old. Actually, I was gonna say something about the Saros cycles, because so interesting. But I don't know if you've got Bernadette Brady's book, which is really good, Predictive Astrology, The Eagle and the Lark.
I have it right here.
Yeah, most astrologers have that. But so she talks about the Saros cycle. So I looked it up, and for this solar eclipse, and the solar cycle is
134.
Sorry.
134.
Right, Robin?
Yeah, it's on. Well, if you've got your book, it's on page 318. But the solar cycle is 7 south. So
That's the Brady
Oh,
series.
yeah, right.
Brady. Yeah, that's the Brady series. Yeah, so she's saying, because obviously each cycle is based on the where it originated, and this one originated in 1248, which is actually when the Crusades were going on. So it's quite a long time ago. But I mean, the troubles obviously in Israel and Palestine and all that region have been going on centuries before that.
It was the Crusades. They were going to help Israel as well, Nothing changed.
But you could say, I suppose, well, the Romans were the Europeans intervening. They're probably the first real Europeans who intervened. They took it over. I mean, God almighty.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then you had the Crusades later. I mean, so the history is just massive, and it's a whole going back and forth.
What does it say about the beginning of that Saros cycle, the first eclipse in that Saros cycle?
Is you've got you've got the sun moon at 8 Cancer.
Okay.
Yeah, which is in trine to Mars. It's in trine to Pluto at 8 Scorpio. But Mars is at 8 Leo. That rings a bell. 8 Leo, 8-9 Leo. And it squares Pluto, of course. And there was a Saturn-Pluto conjunction. So it's like it's bizarre.
So the essence of the beginning of this whole cycle, it sounds a little bit antagonistic to begin with. And that's going to carry through to all of the eclipses that come out of that cycle.
What she says is Pluto trines the eclipse and Mars forms a square to Pluto and actually Saturn, because they're in conjunction. So Mars equals Pluto trine new moon. The immense power, anger, and force of the Mars square Pluto is channeled into this family of eclipses via the trine.
Yeah.
The individual experiencing this series, or nation, or whoever, will find that huge obstacles will suddenly and easily clear, or, on the negative side, a pending potential crisis will suddenly manifest and move through their life very rapidly. Either way, the individual or nation will feel that everything is moving at a very great speed. So, I mean, it has a very, very volatile, and wow, I mean, Mars at 9 Leo, so it's picking up even Israel's
natal moon.
Saturn,
and there's a square between Mars and Pluto right now,
exactly. So this Saros cycle, this eclipse, which is the eclipse at 21 Libra on the 14th, 2 days from now, but in that pattern, this last century, 1933 was sort of hit my eye, because 1933 obviously was a very massive turning point for the Jews, because that's when the Holocaust really took off, as we know, with the in Germany. It had started in 1930, but 1933 was when they started to be they were allowed then to leave. In fact, they were pushed to leave. So there was a mass exodus. At that point, they hadn't quite started the concentration camps. That started later, but it was the beginning of the Holocaust. And 1933 was a turning point. And so that was an eclipse in August. So I looked up August, and I think you've got the chart there. It's the last chart I sent you on the Astro Gold, Sue.
This is wild, though.
It is wild. Excuse me. Wild. Have you got it there? It's the last one.
The last one.
The one I sent as a because I found it last minute. It's weird.
This one with the eclipse.
Is that the August 21? No, that's our eclipse now, 21 Libra. It's the 21st of August, and hold on, the degree is, I've got it here.
Oh, I don't think I have that one. You when
You
when
know,
did you say-
okay. Well, I might have it. I might be able to share it. Can I share screen?
Yes, you should be able to.
Hold on. Share screen. Ooh. So I have to go to Keynote. Oh gosh. I mean, it's hold on. Right. Okay. Okay. Open. Can't see it because how do I get
Oh,
this?
I've
be able
here,
to-
I've got it.
You got it? Okay.
I've got it. I can put it into the
If you go onto solar and lunar eclipses on my open file, solar and lunar eclipses, recent. If you go on recent file, open recent, I could do that. Okay, here we go. Okay, so is that coming down there? Yeah. Okay, so it's at the top. No, it's the Balfour one. I can't see it. Can you see it?
No.
You got the 21st of August. It was near the top. Unless I put it at the bottom. Did I put it at the bottom? Is that it?
The 21st of August of when?
do you want me to
1933.
do you want me to share my screen?
1933. Yeah, 1933. Yeah. Is that the 21st of August, 1933?
There was an eclipse at 28 degrees of Leo on August 21st of
Yeah.
2017.
Well, that's it. 28 Leo. That's it. On August 21st. Got that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And there was also on August 21st of 2017.
Mm.
Right. Okay. There you go. Oh, wait, it's gone. That's gone.
There.
Oh, it's gone. That's it. That's it. Okay.
Sorry.
So that's all right. So yeah, so the amazing thing, this is on this Saros cycle, 1933. August is when, and I got what it was here. This was called this year. So hold on. The August 1933 agreement between the Jewish Agency and the Nazi regime enabled some 53 Jews to immigrate from Germany to Palestine over the following 6 years. But that started, that was the thing that kicked it all off. And that was on this Saros cycle, which is amazing. But when you look at that, of course, it's 28. It's that 28 Leo again. The actual eclipse happened on 28 Leo. And look at the Mars rising at 2646 Libra, which is the same Mars that kicked off the attacks.
Mm.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And there was an eclipse at that degree in, was it 2017?
Yeah,
it
it
was
said August 21st, 2017.
Yes,
Leo-
and that was the year that Trump acknowledged that
Oh, right. Yeah. And he yeah, the temple.
that Jerusalem,
Yeah.
The temple, the Jerusalem temple.
yeah.
And
But
sat right on Trump's descendant with that.
Acknowledge Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. That's what he
Exactly.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But without thought of all this history now, so what happened then after this, of course, then the Holocaust came and then there was mass migration after, and things got worse and worse. And 1939, it was actually on the Metonic cycle is when this eclipse, 21 Libra, this eclipse on the Metonic cycle was on the 12th of October, I believe, 1939, which is just a month after the World War II. So there is sort of a connection between the Metonic cycle and the Saros cycle going on, and
Always.
yeah, and it's very much like you said, Nia, that it's focusing in as it was in World War II, it was focusing in on the Jewish people, but that's because it's like the world needs to look, it's like the spiritual center, and it needs to look, it's the best of our spirituality, but it's also, it's the other side, it's focused in that it gets attacked. So, I mean, the Jewish people until that point, and I thought, well, okay, after that, so that's why in 1938 you get this, in 1948 you get the Balfour Agreement, and that incidentally started in World War I, 1917. There was the Balfour.
1948 is the establishment of Israel.
That's
Balfour.
the establishment, but the
1912.
Balfour thing started in 1917.
Right.
And that's when the Zionist movement managed to get that there was going to be an establishment of Israel, but then it didn't happen fully then. But then at the Versailles Agreement, after World War I was ended, that's when, because of the Ottoman Empire falling during World War I, places around the world, that were actually ruled by Germany or the Ottoman Empire or whatever, were apportioned up to be, what are we going to do now? And unfortunately, Britain was, because it had already been in Arabia, and there's a long history there, and in Palestine and all in that region, it was apportioned to actually be in charge of what was going to happen. And they did decide with the Zionists at that point that there would be, there should be Israel should be instituted, but it didn't fully happen. But then, of course, after the Holocaust and after the huge migration, that's when it was thought to do it. But it was done, obviously, we know it wasn't done well, not at all, not with much thought, although it was the right thing to do, obviously, because then Israel was reinstated. But then I thought, until then, yes, the Jewish peoples have been living all over the world quite happily, but then, it's obvious that they needed their own land back. And it was back because they had it before. It was their land century upon century, and then losing and then gaining, a whole huge history of it. And these Sarah cycles seem to pick it up, this particular cycle particularly. And so, yeah, that's what it's all. But now it's sort of come back again, saying this didn't work like this, because that's what needs examining. What didn't work about this? Because they displaced 8,000 Palestinians to make Israel. Well, why did they need to do? It could have been handled much better.
Yeah.
Because Palestinians had a right to be there, but so did Israelis, and so
in the beginning they were living in peace together.
Yeah,
like
it should have been like that.
Well,
it was a gradual radicalization on both sides.
This
Yeah.
This to me speaks to the Saturn Pluto part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Forcing, just
Even me as a kid, I
Yes.
remember my father taking me into Arabic villages, to meet his Palestinian friends, me playing with their Palestinian children.
Right.
No Israeli would ever go into an Arab Palestinian village, if they want to keep themselves alive, these days.
now.
And yes, but it's been like that on and off for quite a few years, hasn't it? It's like after World War II, then in the 60s it got very bad with obviously the war and everything.
It really got bad since World War II because the Palestinians joined up with the Nazis.
Yeah,
And
there was sides. Yeah.
So
there's a lot of fire going on in the eclipse and the connections between the natal and the eclipse. And even, there's a real lot of fire connections, and they're very tight. So but there's even a grand trine in fire with the natal Mars to Jupiter, and then the transiting or the solar eclipse Uranus. But then the eclipse itself is at those degrees. So I'm, with the fire, I'm not surprised that this brings violence and anger and all of that, the warrior kind of thing, not in the sense like a Scorpio warrior, but definitely an Aries type warrior.
Right, and we just had a year ago, we had that eclipse at 29 degrees Aries, was it?
Yeah. But I mean, think of the trauma of the Holocaust is trauma at its extreme. And so that is going to show in the chart. And, Uranus is the usual one of the markers of trauma. It's conjunct absolute. Those are the centaurs I've got there, which I find really useful. Yeah.
At 26 degrees of Libra, that Mars, ascending.
Yeah. I know.
Can I show you Bibi Netanyahu's chart a minute?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm sharing it away. Let's put his chart and Israel's chart together. So this is Israel in the middle, Benjamin Netanyahu on the outskirts. Here's that Mars at 20. Oh my
goodness.
Yeah. So look at the Mars conjunction, okay?
Yeah.
Look at his moon.
Oh my God, his sun, the Libra.
And Pluto to Pluto, and to Saturn and Pluto too. Wow.
Oh dear.
And Uranus to Venus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so think about the coming eclipse, it's playing with Bibi's luminaries as well, it's not
right, of course. I mean, wow. I mean,
and squaring, squaring Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you think of the 12th house as being the house of secret enemies, you wonder how good he is for the country.
Yeah.
Well,
I've been wondering it for a long time.
but there is a certain fate there, and I think it's something that, did you say that, Lynn? It's like there is, things do come to a head. It's as though there is an unconscious need for what is under the surface
up all the time.
It needs to out in order for
and it's constant. There's no relief.
Yeah. Because it's though events, and that's what we find with astrology, events and the transits and the eclipses and individuals' charts all merge to say this is an almost, this is a in some way fated. It's like there's
written in the sky.
This is what we need to look at. Look at it. Look at it.
Yes, exactly. Because because we can't make the huge transformations. The world is trying to make a huge transformation now at the end of the age of Pisces. And now that's obviously why everything seems to be going haywire, because we have become a lot more conscious, but we're nowhere near where we need to be with the consciousness. There seems to be more wrong because we're seeing it. And that's because it's all erupting like volcanoes all over the world. Yeah. So
I do Akashic record readings, and many years ago when I first started doing them, and I'll shorten this story, the certain people that were in a particular very spiritual group, I did a lot of readings for. And what came up in that, and this started in 1996, was that humanity was at a crossroads of choosing, are we going forward to evolve, or are we going backward to de-evolve? And that it wasn't clear yet where things were going. And every election cycle in the US, I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is the one that's going to show us which side we're going to. And every time it seems like, well, it wasn't quite this one, because now this new one coming up, it looks even worse. But now I'm seeing this these, it seems as though we're really coming to that particular conflict. Those who will not evolve against those who say, we need to evolve, let's grow up, as a species, let's grow up, and those who are not going to allow that to happen. And this certainly seems to be that kind of a reflection as well, with the Palestinians, is Israel, and everybody's hateful, and then we've got everybody around the world supporting one side or the other and pushing in some kind of a dynamic which is opposed to the other side. So we really, and in the United States, certainly we're seeing a split like that, that they're diametrically opposed attitudes and belief systems as to how humans should live. So it's really coming to a head. And looking at all of these transits, it looks as though, it really is coming to a head. But
like the balance we got now, total,
eventually it'll balance out because the universe seeks balance. But where are we?
Still Pluto in the middle, saying, okay, but can't be balanced until
do we think that perhaps with the moon's nodes being in Aries to Libra, that some of this balance may begin to happen more aggressively, trying to find a balance? Do we think maybe politicians are looking to find that balance rather than domination over others? I don't think we're there yet in the States.
I think
it'll happen after the Pisces Virgo nodal axis shifts again.
Okay.
Right now, I think that it's like what it's doing is it's highlighting all of the extremes, and people are still Pluto squaring that. No, this isn't happening. And so all it's doing is it's just getting more extreme. And then that shift from from now to the Virgo Pisces, then that's like crisis, right? Cataclysmic on some levels, for some people it'll be personal, other people it's, huge. That's when the extremes, to counteract the extremes, it's like a carryover from this nodal cycle. And then after that once those nodes shift, that's when I think that things will start to reharmonize. That I think we're in for quite a few rough years.
But we have to go through the process.
Yes.
And
we're in a state of involution in order to evolve. It's
we
like
can't
how it feels.
And that's why it's frustrating for those who are becoming more conscious, because they can see all of this and they think, oh my God, it's getting worse. But that's the case. It is really that, and that's why we need to find our spirituality.
Well, and with our globalization, as we're entering the age of Aquarius, so we are in so much more communication with everybody else, more so than we could ever have been. People are all over the world are looking at things they would not have looked at before.
We can see.
So
and because, as you started it, Sue, with the Venus, this Venus retrograde, which was so intense, particularly in the summer with the fires and we're seeing this and we're horrified. And it seems like the level of horror then is, okay, this was a natural disaster, but then on the, cycles or climate change or both are involved in that. But then how are these catastrophes handled by our governments and authorities? And then we see that awful Maui fire, which seemed to be a complete horrendous. What was that? We still don't know what the authorities were doing. It leaves us feeling traumatized, because you think, my God, the safety, and that's the polarity of Pluto. Pluto in Cancer is that the polarity is where's the safety gone then? And it makes us all feel globally like, okay, if this can happen there, particularly in Maui in Hawaii, which is an American state, and that's meant to be one of the safer countries, obviously a very safe countries in some ways, except for the gun laws, but we've all got our little
relative,
but relatively, then where are we safe anywhere? And we are being made to feel very unsafe now. But then it's getting our spirituality to tell us, okay, but we must not turn away. We must look at this fully in the face, because we have a duty, we have a responsibility not to turn away, but to, as you say, have courage and compassion and bravery. I mean, you know, the North Node is in Aries, so it's about being brave, but then it's just now it's been in Libra and now it's in Scorpio. So it's being brave, but you've also got to be strong, and you've got to have the courage to look and say, okay, this is, yeah, okay, this is terrible, but how long has this been happening in mankind? It's not more terrible actually than it's ever been, as you just said. It's just that now we can see it, but we can see it just at the right time, because this is the transition point that we're going through, a huge transition that actually could take 700 years to go into Aquarius.
I think Eris plays a
But
big role.
Pluto
too.
is really is the marker going into Aquarius. Okay, how ready are you for the age of Aquarius? Well, it turns out we're not very ready at all. In fact, there could be abuse of power on a huge scale because we are not ready. And the technology already, we're seeing the abuse of it. And there is potential for that. But again, we've got to be strong and say, okay, bring it on, because we can take this.
We don't really have a choice. It's
don't
coming, whether we say, oh, bring it on, or no, I don't want it. It's coming. So we have to stand up and say, okay, I can handle this, or I will deal with this.
With the knowledge that the more we deal with it and the more we look and the more we embrace it with compassion and realize it's not them, it's also us. It's all of us. We're all in this same boat. So we need to get that really on board instead of this territorial, oh, this is my land, that's my land, that's my land. No, this is one planet. And unless we start acting like that, then we're kaboom. So that's what we need to go with.
It's a shift in consciousness too, because as you're saying that about how, you know, it's everybody's land because we're all one planet. Before we had such ability to communicate and pay attention to what absolutely everybody else on the planet is doing on a daily, minute by minute basis, this was, well, here's my world and I don't know what's going on over there, so I don't have to deal with it. And I think sometimes that a lot of the trauma that we as a species are feeling every day, especially if you watch a lot of news, is that we have too much information from places we have no connection with, we can't do anything about, and yet we're feeling their trauma anyway. And the brain's not evolved to be
Overloaded.
Well, it's too much. So people, I think, are getting crazier because they're overwhelmed with everybody else's issues.
I know I feel that way.
Oh, me too.
But the thing is to realize that they are all our issues. And so we must.
They are and they aren't. And I'm going to use my standard example because years ago when this came on the news, I thought, why do I need to know this on my local news from Chicago? A bus accident in Birmingham, Alabama, where 20 people died. Well, what can I do about it? Why do I need to know about this? I'm nowhere near there. This doesn't affect me personally or anybody I know in any capacity. Yet I am feeling this trauma because it's being imposed upon me. It's too much. That's what I'm saying. Globally is a different story. I mean, I do want to know what's happening around the world because that is going to impact everything. But all the little nuances of this and this and this that we have no connection with, and we're powerless to do anything and fix it, yet we have to absorb it.
Let go and let God, sort of thing.
And that's not so easy to do.
Oh,
but rising people, it's not so easy to do. You know, if you it depends. I mean, some people can. I know it's hard for me personally. I've got a fair amount of water, but you know,
can you absorb it?
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
I'm with you, Lynn. I feel the same way as Lynn does, especially here in Israel after a few days immersed by all these videos of children and babies being.
Yes,
exactly. We're seeing it here too.
And because it is affecting your country so greatly,
You're not seeing the worst of it. You're not seeing the worst of it.
No, I mean,
I'm glad of that. I've heard of it.
I actually had the stupidity to go into Telegram groups, Palestinian Telegram groups, and the Palestinian videos of what they did. That
Right.
isn't
Different perspective there.
Well, yeah, and you're in the heart of it.
they just celebrate,
Yeah.
mutilating
Yeah,
the bodies.
They're the
and,
ones laughing about beheading a baby or raping a girl and then spitting on her, you
It's
know?
hard to fathom
it
that
is.
kind of consciousness.
It is the demonic. I mean, that's what we have to be prepared for. Actually, there is a rise in the demonic.
Hmm.
And that's a really difficult thing to take on board. But at the same time, realize we have to have our guard, as you just said, Lynn. You can't absorb that. You just have to remove yourself, but hold it somehow. Okay, that is the demonic, but we don't have to embrace that. In fact,
Right.
but we do acknowledge it's happening. We must acknowledge it, but at the same time, we must raise our level.
Yeah.
We must-
And there is, there really is a balance being sought to bring this into some kind of equilibrium and justice. And I don't mean like, going after the perpetrators, but that finding the goodness that balances out all of the evil, which is harder and harder to do, but it's there. You have to
Will
look for it.
prevail. I need to go because I'm very sleepy. And
Okay.
I
But
had a
thank you so
very
much.
emotional day. I still, yeah, like, so I want to say good night, but I want to tell you, I want to thank each and every one of you for being who you are, for
Oh,
doing what you do, for thinking the way you do, for being the persons we are, because really, it's not only the demonic that's been whatever, awakened, elevated, or it's also the angelic. We
Yes.
are strong. We are people of light and love, and we celebrate our tenderness, and we celebrate the fact that we are sensitive and sentient and feeling,
and I
we
believe
know
we
it's
will
local,
prevail.
and we will continue to celebrate it. We will,
Yes.
plant a tree and build a house every time someone will burn it down, and we would create life every time something would try and end it, because that's the creatures we are.
Yeah.
That optimistic note, I'm saying good night.
Exactly.
Good night.
Good night. It was
Thank you
nice
so
meeting
much.
you.
Stay safe.
Thank you
you.
so much for joining us, Mia.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you
Be
for
safe.
inviting.
Be safe.
Yes,
Yes, and
amen
reach
to that.
out if you need like an encouraging word or like whatever. Just know like you have people all the way over here who love
Appreciate
you
it.
and want the best for you, okay?
I will. Thank you, Jordyn. Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Namaste.
Oh, wow.
I have to jump off here too because of my kiddos.
Where are
I want to say I loved meeting you guys. Sue, thank you for asking me to do this. I love meeting other women. I just, it's a cutthroat world and I live in Oklahoma. So anytime I can connect with you guys on a level and learn something, I love learning from all of the wisdom, and I just appreciate you viewing me as an equal. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank
You
you
are.
so much for joining us, Jordyn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, are we at a stopping point, or do we have anything else
Well,
we want to?
I need to get going also in a couple minutes here.
Okay.
We'll wrap up. Shall we? Is there anything you want to wrap up with?
Well,
mean,
I
think
just
we-
wanted to say, I was really sorry that we didn't talk more about the Israel and the trances, and nobody mentioned progressions.
Well,
And,
we do have charts. We can come back and address it.
do you want to do that for a few minutes?
Sure.
Well, I just wanted to say that I just was really struck. When I do people's 12-month forecast, I always use, of course, eclipses, but the trances and solar progressions. And so I did a tri-wheel of
one
that. And I was okay. It looks like you have the same things marked that I
and
did.
it's all highlighted.
But
I'll throw that chart up for a minute.
Really jumped out, and one is the secondary progressed sun is like 1 degree away from the natal moon, and the secondary progressed Mars is like 11 minutes from the progressed midheaven. And I mean, sheesh. And then, and I don't know how many of you use a vertex, but I always use a vertex. And the progressed sun is less than a degree from the progressed vertex, and progressed sun and vertex are right on top of the natal moon. I mean, my gosh, the progressed chart to me was more important than the eclipse or the transits. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, if I had this for my personal chart, I'd go hide under the bed.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was my thought too when I saw it. I thought there's so many things that are lining up.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And the nodes are right on the horizon.
Yeah. And then there's the Eris. We talked about that Eris conjunct that's North Node as well. Exactly. 24.
That's what I keep saying.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
descendant.
And sitting right on their descendant.
Yeah, on
Right.
Israel's descendant. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. So yeah, it does seem very fated, though. The thing is, with fate, there are choices to be made, and we just hope that conscious choices start to be made. I mean, there is a lot of push for consciousness, but then politicians always seem to be lagging behind in that.
Very
and they're
much.
the power.
They're just
But
focused on power, right?
I think there is an awareness growing that if this is such a powder keg, you know what, with Russia taking off with Ukraine, then we have China in the background with Taiwan, then we have this in the Middle East. That's all we need to get these three kick off. And we've got as you said before, we've got a world war. And right now it's touch and go. And I think surely, I mean, I think they do realize that there are huge stakes. And so it has to be handled so carefully, but it's got off to a really volatile start. And somehow it has to be reined in. I mean, as I say, I only see the Saturn. I mean, what does everyone else see with that that's capable of reining this in? Except for
a good question. Yeah. In a way, I think there has been some reining in of response, like with the Ukrainian war, because normally we probably would have sent in troops, but we didn't. You know,
I don't know that. I think there's been a lot of, I think there's been a lot of fingers burned with that in the past with the allies, with NATO, you know, allies in America. I think we don't want to put in troops.
Right, but they used to do that. I thought it was good that we didn't do that, that instead we formed a coalition of support.
But what I thought we should have done was actually, you know, NATO is surrounding, and that has been part of the problem too.
Yes.
Surrounds Ukraine, and yet they were so slow in
That's
since
what I was just pointing to. Uranus transiting the sun maybe will bring some new ideas or new ways of seeing things.
I don't know if I trust Uranus.
That's being hopeful.
I admire your hopefulness, Robin.
That's wonderful, by the way.
No, I hope you're right.
We're talking about hope, and I'm really going off topic, but I'm very concerned 2024 through 2026 when Neptune goes into Aries, because Neptune was at 0 degrees of Leo, 1778 through 1783. And it was at 0 degrees of Aries, 1861 through 1865, you know, Civil War, American Revolution, Civil War, and then 0 degrees of Libra, 1941 through 1944. And now it's going in 0 degrees in Aries again. It's like it is.
And Uranus will be going into Gemini.
Wasn't it in
and then we have the Saturn Neptune conjunction too that sets off a whole new cycle.
And that's true about, you know, with Uranus, it's about ideologies too. So people are totally set, as you said, the polarity, and ideologies are at opposite ends, but fixed in those ideologies, which is so dangerous. And that's the danger with Pluto going into Aquarius. Are those ideologies going to be so fixed that that's what clashes now, and that's the huge danger now, because it's already, I mean, it's already been brewing since 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have so much brewing that isn't even on the global scale. You know, traditionally in the States, we have a lot, you know, that
Well,
practically
the
every
States
civil
are
war.
having this Pluto return still.
yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go. I was just going to say, would you like to look at the
Yes,
Sibley chart?
please.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
And even when the Pluto goes in Aquarius, it's still going to be in our second house. So it's still going to be an issue of what do we value? How do we, you know, what do we have and what do we think about it? So
Exactly.
yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah,
It just never ends.
Well, and then we have this too coming up.
but it's like we cannot go forward without addressing all these problems that have actually been brewing for centuries, not just even the last 100 years or so. It's and then
I think the US chart is worthy of a whole another discussion.
Yes, absolutely, because we're just, I mean, to your point, Michaela, this has been going, these are things that have been going on, you know, since probably even before, I mean, definitely before the United States was even formed, was even thought of, you know, and now we're getting this convergence of all of these cycles overlapping and interlacing and coming up for now we got to deal with it.
Sure.
Yeah. And I want to say, I appreciate, Michaela, that you brought up, you know, the first eclipse in this Saros cycle, because it's reflecting what has continued to happen.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And we're unaware of that. We seem to think we're in a vacuum in this time period. There has been that attitude for some time now. Even World War II seems like that was another, that was eons away, although it seems to have come closer now. That is the strange thing. It seems like because we're getting all these events mirroring events of the past with the transits, you know, they're the same mirror transits going on with the outer planets. It's becoming in our consciousness, oh no, just a minute, we're not in a vacuum. We are on the end of a line of a long, long line of a process. And so we must start to unpack this process, because if we don't, we are on a process that will continue. And that's the whole reason to actually make us suddenly, okay, now are you aware of this process? And that it didn't start then or then or then, but so way back that we haven't evolved. We have evolved consciously in some ways, but we've devolved in other ways. You know, like, you know, the empire
One
building.
step forward, 2 steps back.
You know, that land again. Yeah. So now we have to respect each other's right to live and for safety and security and land. We all have a right to that. And there's no reason all over the world we couldn't have that yet, because of this land grabbing constantly for century upon century that's still going on, that's not going to happen.
And in the same regions.
Yeah, the same. It like repeats and repeats.
Yeah.
When I was 21, I read a book called The Territorial Imperative, which was a book. It started with like ants will kill other ants if they don't smell like themselves, and deer will, and then people will. Anybody who is not like us, we are likely to kill. But it's all about territory, because a lot of, you know, the animals, they have. If you have territory, you have females, and you have water, and you have food.
And
now we have resources, but I just don't think we're ever going to. I think it's too biological, it's too innate, it's too part of us. I don't think we're ever going to evolve wanting not to have our territory. And I just don't think
we have to have our territory, but then we have to learn to respect each of our rights to have that territory without impinging on the others. But then we've got the extra, we need also to get onto our consciousness that territory is even changing. It's changing through, as we said, migration, through war, through climate, changing on every level. And so we have to change our whole attitude, our whole consciousness.
You make it sounds to me like you think we're going to be able to do that.
I think we've got to try to do that, because
I think we will. I'm being Pollyanna here. I think that we will be better off. Here's the thing, and I have a friend that I go through this with, because she's always pessimistic, and I say, you have to look for the good things, because we're always being bombarded with the bad things, because that's the news. But if you look, and why is it the news? Because it's not the common thing. It stands out. So if you look around, or at least in my world, and I will admit I live in a fabulous bubble, there are so many good people, so many good things that happen every single day. They're not big, so they don't make it to the news. I mean, I'll give you just an example. When I was working, I took a bus in downtown Chicago, okay? And people are, oh my God, I can't believe you would ride the bus. It's so scary. And I'm like, you know what? Every single day on my way there, on my way back to work, I witness a kindness between strangers with no expectation of any kind of payback or just, I can help you. I mean, sometimes I've started crying because it was such a big help that people jumped up, let me help you, let me do this for you, with no payback in sight and no payback even thought of. So there is goodness, but we have to look for it. We have to honor it when we see it, and we got to believe in it and be a part of it. It's a slow process, but I do believe it will happen. It's just not real soon, sadly.
Well, as you say, though, people do rise to the occasion of catastrophe. But in some ways, catastrophe, that's the paradoxical thing. Catastrophe can bring the best of human beings
The
out.
best and the
Night before the dawn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point, Lynn, honoring it when we see it is really important, because that helps it build. That gives it validity and
power.
And I work personally, I make an effort. Like if I see somebody has a beautiful combination of clothing and they look so wonderful, I will say, I thank you so much for wearing that. I'm having such a great time looking at you, and you look so wonderful. And you can watch that person really change just because you've said something nice. And I don't do it to, as in a fake way, because I actually mean it. But it's just there's so much good out there, but you have to be open to see it. And I'm saying this because I have a couple friends who, no matter if it's been slapping them in the face, they will not see it. They just see the
reminds me of when I used to be a social worker. I was driving to work one day, and it was really foggy. It was an unusually just white day, and it was winter, and you could see the black treeless that black leafless trees looking lacy. I mean, it just looked like lace. And then the sun was a silver circle in the sky. It was just beautiful. It was just beautiful. I was just, thank you God for this beautiful world. And I walk into work and I said to my coworker, did you see the fog? And she said, yes, it's so gloomy. I am just so depressed. It was just like we saw exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was just thanking God. It was so incredibly beautiful. And she was,
perspective is everything.
Well, I have to get going.
It is.
Well, are we done?
Well, I guess I just wanted to say one thing. It's really wonderful to be an astrologer, all of us, because we are making the world a better place.
Let's hope so. Well, thank you, everybody. It was wonderful being with all of you. I really enjoyed this.
Thank
Same
you.
here.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Yes.
Have a great solar eclipse. And by the way, the one on October 28th is on my birthday, on my son. Just
Oh my gosh.
I'm not worried about it. I've had exact eclipse aspects happen before, like the June 21st one a couple years ago, exactly to the minute on my Uranus in the 12th house. Nothing. I'm like, okay.
Nothing happened?
Go with the flow, baby. That's what I try to do. You just go with the flow and say, okay, how can I make this work positively? And
it
can do.
It could be something happened inside, which is
it could be. Yeah. But it wasn't bad. I mean, I was like,
not all bad.
No. No,
The
so
wild
dread. Oh my God.
yeah.
And no, that's a good thing, not approaching these eclipses and transits with trepidation in approaching them as that if we are confronted with what seems negative, yes, to find some good in it, find some way to turn it, say, okay, we need to see this so this can be changed.
There's always another side. And you know, this is my personal philosophy, but even when bad things happen, something good is going to come out the other side. That's a very Plutonian attitude of, you know, I do have to go through the fire to get to the better place. And I'm not going to get there unless I come out of that. So, and I, you know, we don't always see it right away and we may never see it, but I do believe that it's part of growing forward that brings us to that.
Yeah, it raises consciousness.
I concur.
Yay.
On that positive note,
Bye.
thank you all.
Thank you.
See you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.